Okay, one last thing that I want to talk about before we end the episode is follow up and follow through. One of the biggest things that we noticed last year is that we had a lot of visitors coming to El Buen Pastor. I mean, we're talking about over 400 people, first-time visitors. We were excited to see new people every single week. And I have to say, it has continued into 2026, and we're still excited about it. But here's the thing. We have not been able to keep all 400 of those visitors. And I know that that's probably impossible because some of them are from out of town. But we would like to know that most of those visitors were able to find a church home, and particularly this one right here. But since that hasn't always happened, we've had to go look back and see what can we change and what can we do better. Obviously, a part of every church's process. So what we've done is that we've tried to create a system so that anytime we have a new church visitor, we make sure that we have followed up and we followed through with them. I'm going to go into that here in a second. But before I do that, I want to talk about a concept of an open front door and a closed back door. What does that mean? Your church has a spiritual front door. That is where people get to know who your church is and the reason why they come to visit you in the first place. And I'm going to give you 3 indications of an open front door. You want that door to be wide open. And here's how you can do that. First is an online presence. This podcast is a part of that. The time that it takes to create the podcast, to put it together, creates an open door for those who are looking for a church and they don't really know about your church. They don't really know about the pastor. It doesn't have to be a podcast. It can simply be a picture that you post online. It could be making sure that you keep up with your Facebook posts and events that are posted online. The internet can be a great tool to reach the lost. And if you do not have an online presence, you might not be leaving your front door wide open. Here's the other 2 that I think most churches are doing, and they're doing them well, is worship and preaching. But if you know that in those 2 areas you're lacking, then that could potentially be closing that front door. So let me talk about preaching for just a second. Preaching, obviously, you have to take the time to study the word, and I know most pastors do. But at the same time, you can't be so entrenched into your notes while you're preaching that you're simply reading off the paper. That's something that I've been convicted about, and I've shared in my other videos. My notes are only 1 page long, and I really have to know my stuff so that when I get up onto the altar to be God's voice in that moment, I want to be able to be used by Him and not be stumbling through what I've written, but really hearing from Him. And I know that's not easy, and I know it can be scary. And I don't want you to go off the rails and start saying things that you think, but really what God has already placed in your heart that you've meditated on all week. And that's the message that you deliver. It can be more authentic and engaging when you're not looking at your iPad or a piece of paper, but really making eye contact and making sure that your congregation knows that you studied this week, and so you know what you're going to tell them because it's the message that God placed on your heart for that week. So that's one of the biggest things that I've noticed has been impactful when it comes to preaching. And again, that really encourages people to invite others to come to your church. Now, worship. I'm not a worship pastor, but I have a great one here on staff. And we always have a time to talk. And here's some of the things that he's told me that I see have been very fruitful in the worship ministry. Worship leaders, you got to be on time and you got to keep your group on track. So what do I mean by that? One of the things that he does is if you don't practice, you can't play. What does that mean? Well, if you don't come to practice throughout the week for worship team, you won't be able to play on Sunday morning. And it makes sense when you really think about it. If we're not prepared, we're not going to give our best on a Sunday morning. And so that is a standard that sometimes can be difficult because sometimes life happens and other worship leaders that are working along your worship pastor can't show up. And so you have to be a little flexible, but you want to make sure you maintain that standard. Here's another thing. Worship pastors, worship leaders, you have to be in the Word and you have to be meeting with God daily. If your heart is not in the right place, it's going to be hard for you to lead others into God's presence. Do not neglect your spiritual life when it comes to worship. You can be the best singer. You can be the best musician. But if your heart's not in the right place, that comes across when you're leading worship, believe it or not. People can tell, and they can also tell when your heart is in the right place. And so being authentic, being vulnerable with God will lead you to that place. So again, just to summarize real quick, 3 things that can open your front door that can get people into the building: an online presence, good preaching, and awesome worship. And guys, people are going to show up. Now, what happens once they're there, and why are they not staying? That's your back door. And really your back door are your ministries and those greeters, those ushers, those systems that you have in place. Those have to be done well. People notice the little things. Was my child taken care of? Did my youth get anything out of the time that they were there? If that's not happening, they might not come back. And so really invest into your kids ministries, your youth ministries. Make sure it's fun for the students. Make sure that they're having a good time, but also keep them safe. Make sure that they're taken care of. Parents will come back if their kids are taken care of. And so those are some of the things that we're investing this year. We're taking care of our youth, and we're taking care of our kids. We're making it fun. We're doing things for them that they want to come back. That's going to start to close that back door so that your new visitors and other members are not leaving your church. Another thing, like I said, is some of the logistical things, making sure that the building is clean, making sure that there are ushers, that things are printed out on time. Little things like that are going to begin to close that back door. And then the last thing is really just building relationships, encouraging your leaders to build relationships, to talk to the members, to get to know them, to visit them. Those are the things that people remember, and it's how you're going to keep that back door closed. Now, again, we are learning this as a church. We've been so excited with all those that are showing up every single week, but we have to do better so that they feel comfortable, they feel served, they feel ministered to enough to stay. And so here's the process that we're going to be putting in place, and we're going to continue to work on. It's going to be a 12-week process that as soon as a new visitor comes in, we're going to give it 12 weeks to follow up and follow through with them. That could be a phone call. That can be a text. That could be meeting one-on-one with them. We want to do what we can to make them feel comfortable, to make them feel welcome. Now, why 12 weeks? Well, maybe this isn't the place for them, and God knows why. But we have to do what we can. So we're going to give it 3 months. We're going to reach out 3 to 4 times during those 3 months so that we can at least give them an opportunity to get to know us and for us to get to know them. And if after those 3 months they've decided that this is not the place, we don't want to continue bothering them. I'm sure God knows why and where He's going to place them, and we'll let them move forward and pray for them as they go. And so these are just things that we've been noticing here as the church, and I wanted to share with you because maybe you feel like we haven't gotten a lot of visitors, and how do we do that? Or we are getting a lot of visitors, but a lot of our people are not sticking around. Also, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about church discipline. I know it's not easy, but use the Bible as your guide so that this can become a fruitful conflict, meaning that even though there was some kind of tension between people or between ministries, that God used that to build the church, to clean out some things that needed to be cleaned out, and ultimately bring unity to the church. And then again, the first thing that we talked about was this podcast. This is a great way to connect with an audience online, but it takes a lot of work. So just a little bit of tips. Record. Make sure you have a lot of content before you start posting online. But thank you guys for watching. I know this episode was a little bit different since we didn't have a guest this time, and we've had them for the last consecutive weeks. But some things that I wanted to talk to you about, and hope that you're getting something out of it. Thank you guys for tuning in.